Patriarchy has turned into this buzzword for feminists. It is being used to motivate women to smash the system and smash the oppression. The truth is, nobody actually understands what the patriarchy actually is and what it actually represents. I've heard some conservatives, and they'll argue, I guess not really conservatives, but there's some people on the right specifically that will argue that the patriarchy, oh, it doesn't exist, right? This is just something that was made up in their heads. But that's not true either, right? The patriarchy is very real, but it is also very good. That may sound like an incredibly unpopular opinion to most of you. I'm sure, thanks to 100 years of feminist propaganda, at this point you view the patriarchy as something evil and something that needs to be abolished. Because, like I said before, you have all been convinced of this grand lie that the patriarchy is being used to oppress women, which is completely untrue. There is no actual backing for this. The truth is, the patriarchy was a system that has been built by men, which is what the feminists get right. It's a system built by men, led by men, for women and children. Patriarchy has never actually benefited men. It has never been something that benefited women, or excuse me, benefited men more than women. There are pros for the patriarchy for both genders, obviously. Like the men in the patriarchy, we do better, right? We are meant for a patriarchal system. Humanity is made for a patriarchal system. That's how the hierarchy was set up, right? You have God, man, woman, child, in that order. The patriarchy is the natural way. So it makes everybody happier, but it makes specifically women and children happier. We can see over the last 50 years since 1970, right? We have seen a drastic drop in happiness, specifically women's happiness. This may seem contradictory, right? You would see all the progress women have made in the workforce, in politics, that you would start to think women are probably happier than they were 50 years ago. You see all this quote unquote progress, and you start to think, yeah, you start to assume that women would be happier. But that is the opposite of what we really see that's going on. Since 1970, like I said before, both genders' happiness has dropped drastically. Men, however, were always more, or excuse me, women were more happy than men for a long, long time. We saw a trend, women were consistently, they were more satisfied with their life. Why? Because they were living in a system built for them, built for their happiness. Men have always cared for women, and men have always put in the work to make women's lives as easy as possible. These women were given this opportunity where they didn't have to go out and work. They were able to stay home. They were able to live a good life with one income from their man, where they were able to stay home, take care of the house, and take care of their kids. They were able to fulfill their natural motherly role in nurturing their children. That is something that has been lost today. Thanks to economic factors along with social factors, no longer is it common for a woman to be stay at home. Oftentimes, a family can't even operate without two incomes, thanks to, inflation mixed along with all these companies driving up the prices of property thanks to buying it all out. American soil isn't even American anymore, right? It's being bought out by the Chinese as we speak, being bought out by companies like BlackRock. American soil is more expensive than ever. Groceries more expensive than ever. Gas prices skyrocketed, of course. They've started to go down a little bit, but they're still higher than pre-Biden. Everything has gotten more expensive. So now today it is almost impossible to live on one singular income, forcing both parties to work. Now you have two parties that have to go to work, yet you still have a house that needs to be cleaned, you still have food that needs to be cooked, and you still have children to look after. So now these roles, they are no longer equally split between men and women, right? Before it was the man went to work while the woman took care of the house. Now they have to argue over chores, over who tucks in the kids, who spends times with the children, who cooks, who cleans. It's no longer very set in stone which roles each person fulfills. And it's no longer their natural roles either. Before, the woman was able to fill her natural role of being nurturing and being um, the house taker, right? And the lead of the house, you could say, right? The woman was always in charge of like keeping the household operating, keeping it stable, while the man brought in income and led his family. Right? She was in charge of the household while he was in charge of the family. And that was the natural way of doing things. Today, you see that women are forced into this role of having to give up their natural role of nurturing to their husband, and she also has to go work, two things that is not natural for her. And the man is forced to step into this nurturing role that he was not previously used to. On top of that, we also see a extreme rise in single mothers, right? Before, it was much more common for a couple to stay together. Marriages were more consistent, they lasted longer. And now, today, we have seen a drastic drop in this, causing more single mothers than ever, resulting in these mothers becoming, having to take on the role of the man and the woman, making them even more unhappy. And where did this single motherhood rise come from? The sexual revolution. We can see that women who sleep around, they are much more likely to be in a failed relationship. They're less loyal and they're more likely to initiate a divorce. They are more likely to be unhappy in their marriage, resulting in them leaving their husbands and being left in a single mother household. Or, even worse than that, they end up hooking up with a guy, get pregnant, and then they have to raise the kid because the guy dips. He ditches, right? So now you have women trying to take on the role of men and women, and that's making them even more unhappy. They no longer have men to solely provide for them. And naturally, that's going to result in their life becoming less satisfactory, right? We have women taking out of their natural role, and they have to take on a new masculine presence in the world. They have to take on this masculine identity, leaving their nurturing role behind, no longer being provided for, making them more unhappy. That is what happens when you abolish the patriarchy. As we see the patriarchal systems begin to fall apart, begin to go away, begin to diminish, we see women become less happy because they're no longer being provided for. We had this system set up where men would provide for the women, and that's gone now. Now, as I said before, women and men's happiness has both gone down, but men's has been less drastic, and now they report to being happier than women are. Men today are happier than the average woman. Why is this? Why would this be? Because men are still getting parts of their natural role. They're still being able to provide a little bit, not as much as before. That's why you still see their happiness go down. However, women have been put in the spot where they've been completely ripped away from their natural feminine role. They have been told, they've been convinced of this lie throughout their childhood that they need to be masculine to be successful in this world. They've been told that they're living in a man's world and they have to take on the role of men to beat out men. We are no longer working together, but we are competing with each other. Men and women before were not competing with each other in the job market. This is another reason why it takes two incomes to supply a family, right? There are more people in the workforce. When you had just men, there was less money to go around, or less people that the money had to go around to, I should say. So the men were earning more and they were able to bring that money home to their family and provide for them. Now every boss has to pay double the amount of money because there are double the amount of employees, resulting in everybody getting paid less, forcing women who would otherwise stay in the house to go to work to, make an income so they can actually supply for their family. It's really not good stuff. This is what happens when you have the patriarchy. When you diminish the patriarchy, everybody becomes less happy. We also see that, women, when they start to take on this masculine role, marriages fall apart. When a woman out earns her husband, we see the likelihood of divorce increase by 50%. That's what happens. Women want to be provided for. They never wanted to live in this world where they were in charge, where they had the masculine role. They want to be provided for, and when their man can't do that, when they no longer feel that is a necessity for them, they leave him and they destroy their family. It's very unhealthy. And as we see this marriage rate go down thanks to the diminish of the patriarchy, as we see everybody become less unhappy and more lonely. We also see birth rates diminish greatly. Today, birth rates are at an all-time low. People aren't getting married and they aren't having children. What does this result in? This results in more old people and less young people. People are living longer and having less kids. There are less people. There are going to be less people to take care of the boomers than there ever were before. When you have this situation where you have more old people than you have young people, there's no longer anybody to take care of the old people. It's either the young people have to sacrifice everything they have so that the old people who no longer can work, so that they can be taken care of, that's what it's going to turn into. These people are out of the working age, but they outnumber the people in the working age, meaning that there aren't enough resources to go around because they have to be split between the old people who can't work and the young people who are working. And then you are either going to see old people start to die off because they can't, get the support that they need. Or you'll see young people being put in extreme poverty and being put in these situations where they can't even provide for a family. We're going to see the birth rate get even worse as time goes on because less and less people are going to be even capable of providing because of the systems that are going to have to be put in place for these old people to even have a chance. That's the situation we're in. Our birth rate is going to continue declining. Again, it's at an all-time low and it's only going to get worse. These are the consequences of abolishing the patriarchy. And I've heard this argument that, women they were being mistreated by men. I don't buy it. You really think you have situations like look at the Titanic. Who this is a great representation of what the patriarchy really is. The Titanic, who was it captained by? A man, right? It was led by men. However, who is it who was taken care of first? When crisis strikes, who dies? The men die, and the women and the children get to the lifeboats. The women and the children, even although the entire operation was led by men, the ones that were saved were the women and the children, because the patriarchy has always been about providing for the women and the children. We look back at the 19th Amendment. Who put that in place? A bunch of men. Men were the one who gave women more opportunity because men have always cared about women. We've always cared about their opinions, right? At least we've at least pretended. But men have always they've cared. They want women to be happy. So they've done everything they can to make sure women stay happy. Unfortunately, sometimes this results in bad decision making, right? We've allowed the patriarchy to get completely destroyed because, men care too much about women, you could argue. They put too much value in them and then they allow them to destroy the system that worked for hundreds of years. There's a reason that you've never seen an extremely successful matriarchal society. Think about every Western country. The West is by far the most advanced place in the world, and same with the Eastern world, right? Like the look at Asia. That's where I'm talking about specifically. The most successful places are where? Europe, Asia, and North America, and Australia. We'll throw that in, but Australia is obviously completely built by European society, and that goes for the same for North America. America, Canada, and Australia, those countries all stem from European ways of doing things. And what's the European way? Patriarchal systems, patriarchal societies. Asia, all the most successful countries there, all patriarchal. They all had male leads. They were all controlled by men. They all run by men. You don't see successful female run countries because they just don't exist. It's not possible. Women aren't meant for that leadership role. Men just do it better. There's no reason why we would have ditched this system, right? Like, why did we leave the patriarchy? What reason was there? We don't see any matriarchal societies doing better. We have to understand that men and women just aren't equal. We just aren't the same. We have equal value, but we bring different tools to the table, and we do best when we are able to embrace our own unique tools. Men, again, they should provide, they should lead, but they also have to make sacrifices. They have to put their woman first and they put their children first. And that's what we've seen all throughout history. Every patriarchal society puts women first. That's why they send men to war and not women, because they value the woman's life more. There is an inherent value on women that is not granted to men. Like we hear this from red pillars a lot, right? They're like, "Oh, well, men have to actually work for their value. Women, it's given." And that's true because we live in a patriarchy. Men have to work for their value because there's no inherent value on men. They have to earn it so that they can actually step up and embrace their leadership roles. And those who fail to do so fail society are failed by society. They are outcasted. Women, however, already have this inherent value just by being women. They are going to be protected and provided for because of their state of being. Same goes for children. They are inherently protected and valued. Men and women have it different. And that's okay. We have to understand that. We have to accept that. We have to, instead of teaching young girls that they need to become more masculine to become valued in society, we have to teach them that their utmost value comes from their unique feminine nature. This is one of the big problems with the whole transgender issue that's being spread around right now. It is diminishing the unique roles and the uniqueness of men and women. Men should be masculine and they should be taught to embrace those roles, and that's what makes them most valued. And we are taking that away with terms like toxic masculinity. Women need to be taught that femininity is their unique inherent value. That's being taken away with, you see people attacking trends like the trad wife thing going on. I think it's TikTok or whatever. But people are angry about that and they are attacking it because it's women embracing their natural role. And when men and women embrace their natural role, the patriarchy will 100% of the time happen because the patriarchy is natural. The patriarchy is what makes people happiest. When the patriarchy is gone, men become less happy, women become less happy, and society starts to fall apart. Birth rates decline, marriages fall apart, family unit dies. That's what happens when you reject the natural way, when you reject the patriarchy. So we need to go back to, actually supporting it. We need to go back to understanding that the patriarchy isn't this boogeyman, but it is a system that has worked for thousands of years. We have no evidence that there's any system that would work better, and we have to embrace it. And we need to teach men and women to understand their unique roles so that they can embrace them. That's how you make a society happier. That's how we can actually save this country. That's what we need to do. We can fix this marriage issue. Like all of it, it would be difficult to switch, but we know how to do it because we didn't have this problem before. The sexual revolution was caused by what? Feminism, which feminism is the attack on the patriarchy. Every negative thing we've seen happen over the last 100 years was a way to diminish away the patriarchy, to take away the inherent value of women, right? A big part of women's value comes from their purity. Like they are valued by society automatically, but they are more valued because of their purity. That's specifically what people want. So, feminism, they attacked purity. They told women to sleep around. They they made an attack, like, yeah, on purity, on their feminine state of being. And they told men to strip away women's purity, right? That's what the sexual revolution is all about. Women losing it and men taking it away. It's no good. It's bad stuff. It's bad stuff. Abortion was an attack on the family unit. The family unit is built from the patriarchy, right? The family unit, the man is in charge of the family while the woman is in charge of the household. That is a patriarchal system, 100%. The patriarchy is a system built by men for women and children. The moment we understand that is a moment we can start fixing this country. So stop going around trying to yelling this buzzword. Stop using it as a buzzword and actually understand it as a societal system that has always and will always work because it is a natural way of doing things. I'm going to sign off on that note though. So if you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, share it. I greatly appreciate it. The only way we're going to take back this country is together. So join the fight. But like I said, I'm heading out. So long. Peace out and God bless y'all.